Loud. Last week we didn't have a recording because we were so frantic. Good morning, everybody.
Joan, one
Judith?
second. Judith Smith is saying she's not getting any sound.
But everyone else is, right?
Right.
Maybe your volume is off, Judith.
Yeah, check your own volume on your computer. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Women's Legislative Roundtable today, which is on education and health. This will be we have two more hybrid and then one more in person. I'm sorry, two hybrid and one more that would be totally virtual. That will be the last minute wrap up. So today is education. I think Anu has already dropped in and she will drop in again the Google Drive that has a bunch of information, including the agenda. And yes, she just did that. Thank you very much. So you can click on that. You can see the agenda. You can see some information that we have on our education programs. And we understand that our first speaker may be stuck in the elevator. Judith, I think you have some feedback going. Okay, so do you have sound, Judith?
No.
That's strange. Check your volume on your computer, but if you heard me, then you have sound.
We can hear her.
Yeah, I think there's just something there. Okay, all right, so I'm going to introduce our advocacy chair, Denise Harrington, who has some information on the education bills, where they stand and what they're doing, and she will take it away right now. So Denise?
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning?
Fine.
Okay,
I can hear
great.
you.
Okay. You can hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So we're going to get moving. I'm so excited. So since our first speaker, I'm going to say that until he comes in. We have had an exciting time. So I would like to start off with always giving a shout out to about 41 of you all, along with Mary Jennings and Beth Obenshane for our education equity study. At the same time that we were conducting a 2-year, very thorough equity study on funding and, or I like to call it often inequity, in terms of what was happening with school construction and also folks being, certain localities being majority of Virginia's localities because of the Dillon rule being denied the right to even have a referendum on a 1% sales tax if they wanted to raise money for school construction. Also prompted our state to take a look. So at the same time, we were conducting our 2-year study. The nonpartisan arm of the Virginia General Assembly, often referred to, nicknamed as JLARC, the Joint Legislative Audit Review Committee, conducted its study. And it is in line with what our study said. The General Assembly was not fully funding public education. So at this time last year, everyone was looking at it, wondering what to do. And we've had this before. But this time during this session, I wanted to just say, it's incredibly encouraging. So that's what I wanted to mention to you a little bit today. And our first priority was really making sure that the state pays its fair share of public education costs. And responding to JLARC's study on school funding, there were some very, very definite, I'm trying to shorten this so that when our speaker comes, I can cut it off at any time. But there were some very, very definite recommendations and priorities, our priorities also, and making sure that the state pays its fair share of costs to educate our students while making the formula simpler and more accurate. And you're going to see some people. Okay, good. For health, right? Okay, good. And we just talked last time. Okay, so I will just, I don't know about your time, Catherine, but I will just mention a few things. Excuse me. Okay, but that's fine. So what I wanted to say is recommendation one, making technical improvements to the standards of quality. Those are the very basic measures in education. And for example, some of you in rural areas, you've had to share an assistant principal or share a nurse, school nurse that they're required to have. And so this is the kind of thing they weren't even funding that, let alone the full standards of quality. So that was the first, we call these near-term recommendations that came out of the JLARC study. And so it's make technical improvements in standards of quality and the funding formula, better known as the LCI, the linear, the local composite index, and it's based on a linear weighted average. If you ever wondered, well, why some school systems get more than others? Because the current and old formula also was not equitable as well. But before we get into the weeds with that, we do have someone, the theme today is for public education and physical health. And we are so fortunate to have a member here from the Williamsburg League. Come on up. And she is going to talk to us. I'm going to interrupt the education discussion, and she's going to talk to us about health and what's happening right now. Okay. So Catherine Haynes from Virginia Interfaith Policy, and is also a member.
Good morning, everybody. I am Catherine Haynes, the Health Equity Manager for the Virginia Interfaith Center for Policy. And I know some of you on the call attended our Day for All People on January 15th, where we had 450 people come down to the General Assembly. And I'm hoping at the end of my remarks that I will lure you to come down to this building again. We have a couple more weeks to make a difference here in Virginia, and we need you. So when we are talking about health equity, I think we need to define the story that makes it very personal. So first of all, who here on the call, and you can do a thumbs up, is either a mom or has a special relationship with a child that they consider themselves that child's second mother. Drop a note in the chat or give a thumbs up. Yeah, there they come. Because in order to sustain this fight, we have to keep it personal. We talk a lot about who is not insured, and we often overlook the larger number, which is that 25% or 1 in 4 of Americans will experience a gap in healthcare coverage over a 2-year period. So 1 in 4 is a very large number. And sometimes it is important to focus more on the fact that a large percentage of us will lose health insurance. And my own family has had a gap in coverage twice. And the first time was when we had a newborn. And it's very scary to not be covered. And I have friends who are not covered now and think everything's going to be fine. But this summer, my family was in a major car accident, and we should not be alive. We made it out by the grace of God. It was a semi-truck. And that changed my thought of, everything's going to be fine. The reality is we need healthcare coverage. Everyone, and children especially, need healthcare coverage. When I was asked to speak, I was given a couple of different bills to budget amendments to bring up and to comment on whether we supported or opposed. And I looked at the word oppose and I thought, but doesn't everybody know that it is part of our social fabric as Americans that we support health insurance, and especially for children? How many of you know that there's a great book we have to read called We've Got You Covered, that the first socialized medicine in the US, we think was in 1798, and it was passed by Congress and signed by President John Adams, and it was, quote, an act for the relief of sick and disabled seamen. So seamen had a lot of issues. They were also creating a lot of ruckus in the localities, then had to bear the burden. And they also caught a lot of diseases as they traveled. And it just became obvious that you shouldn't expect a locality that had a port with more seamen and therefore more hospital needs to bear the full cost of that healthcare. And so Congress passed and the president signed. So this is 1798. This is such a part of our fabric. There is no opposed. There is only, and this is why we do help every legislator find a path to yes. And I'm just going to name 4 budget amendments, and I would really like you to write them all down because the number is important. So I'm not going to talk too much about them because it's a short session, and really just write down the number and ask your legislator to support. So the first one is cover all kids. And that's really just healthcare coverage for all kids, regardless of documentation status. And I like to say I was on a majority conservative school board in Chesterfield County Public Schools, and we absolutely supported healthcare coverage for all kids, regardless of documentation status, because if you're sick and you're in the classroom, you get other kids sick. So it impacts everybody. So that is 289, number 2H, and 289, number 1S. Then increased CHIP eligibility. We've made a lot of progress in Virginia when it would come to CHIP income eligibility, and those are the income limits for getting health insurance. We are not doing very well. So I like to look at the MACPAC reports, and they report on Medicaid and CHIP eligibility levels as a percentage of federal poverty level for children and pregnant women by state. And let's just say Alaska and New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Wyoming, they are all beating us. So we have a lot of work to do. And that number to write down is 287, number 1S. We can't be behind Alaska and South and North Dakota. Continuous Medicaid coverage for children 0 to 6. I mentioned my family had been without health insurance twice in our lifetime. I don't ever want to be there again. When you have gaps in coverage, it has consequences. And this one is, so write this one down, 288, number 50H, and 288, number 3S. So at least between the ages of 0 to 6, the most critical years, you do not have a gap in coverage. And then finally, expand emergency Medicaid coverage, cancer treatment. This is 288, number 20S. I think everyone on this call has had a loved one, lost a loved one, or who currently has a loved one struggling with cancer and understands how devastating this disease is and the importance of immediate emergency is urgent care. So we would like to see that pass as well. So I hope to see who on this call can commit to coming up right now, and not today, but commit right now to contacting your league representative and getting help scheduling a visit with your legislator, because it makes a difference. I noticed a vote that surprised me a little bit the other day, and I thought, And then I thought, oh, I know where that came from. And I reached out to the person and I said, did you reach out to your representative and ask them to vote yes on this instead of no this year? And they said they did. So one person changed a vote. You could be that person. So please contact your league person and sign up. And thank you so much for your time.
And then questions? I'm gonna try to fix this.
No. Yeah, one. Where can we get Catherine's new book?
Where can they get your new book?
I don't have time to write a book yet with four kids. I will be writing one, but everyone should read the book. We've Got You Covered. It's written by two, internationally known economists, and they're at a dinner party, and basically someone said, how do we afford universal health care? And they actually, did all of this research and wrote a book to show advocates like us, right? How to get there. And basically everyone should read it because it is right, one step at a time.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. I'm just going to try to fiddle. This computer is not friendly. Okay, now our speakers are pinned. And not like my computer at home. Okay, great. I'm going to turn it back to Denise, who will introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for today. So I would like to say this. This next speaker is with the Commonwealth Institute of Virginia, which is another pro-democracy partner with us on many areas. And so this next speaker, a graduate of the prestigious Minority Political Leadership Institute, Freddie, I had to get that in. And he's going to come and talk to us about the efficacy and of healthcare and what we can do to make our Commonwealth healthier again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm league welcome for Freddie Mejia. I hope I said it right.
Good morning. It's so great to see people online and here in General Assembly. As you heard, my name is Freddie Mejia. I am Policy Director at the Commonwealth Institute, and I lead our healthcare and immigrant justice work. So I'll first start with addressing a question in the chat around Medicaid expansion and what we are calling the trigger law. So in 2018, when Medicaid expansion was passed in the budget, due in large parts of many advocates probably on this call, we know that it was a monumental opportunity and moment for Virginia, but that budget language came with a caveat. It said that if the federal government dropped below its funding level, which is 90%, the federal government pays 90% of Medicaid expansion. If it drops even a percentage point below that, Medicaid expansion would automatically end. We would disenroll everyone on Medicaid expansion as soon as possible. And right now, that means 630,000 individuals across Virginia would automatically lose coverage. So this is concerning because we know that at the federal level, there are conversations to reduce Medicaid funding and particularly around Medicaid expansion. So we have been working with other groups and advocates as well as two senators, Senator Deeds and Senator Hashmi, to introduce language to remove that disenrollment language, that automatic trigger language, as we call it. And you can find the budget amendments, and I'll say this slowly. The first one is budget amendment item 288, number 20S, and that is from Senator Deeds. And the other one is 288, number 21S, from Senator Hashmi. So those budget amendments, what that would do is remove the automatic language that says that you have to kick people off of coverage immediately, because we know that healthcare is important and we want to remove people out of this equation. Instead, we want folks, we want legislators, Virginia legislators, the opportunity to discuss what options they have, what funding resources they might have, and just take a moment, take a breath to understand what's happening at the federal level, what levers we have in Virginia to make sure that we have coverage, and instead of just forcing people to lose coverage when there's a possibility that they may not need to. So we are very hopeful that we will see that budget language included in the Senate proposal, and we've had discussions in the House. Although they don't have a budget amendment, they can kind of do whatever they want because they are legislators. So we hope to see some similar language in the House, but ultimately we want to see that language gone. And, with the remaining time, I know you heard from Catherine about Cover All Kids, about continuous eligibility, about emergency Medicaid. So I'll just end. I don't think I can do a better job than Catherine did. So I'll just share a story that we've collected around the importance of cancer treatment. And this is available in the TCI website. I'll give you a quick review. Zion was a chubby-cheeked, quiet, but wide-eyed toddler adored by his family. He was a 2-year-old resident of Fairfax, Virginia, diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, a type of leukemia with an over 90% survival rate for children of his age. However, Zion faced a major barrier to care. His immigration status prevented him from accessing timely treatment and created numerous obstacles, making it extremely difficult for him to receive the care he needed. Like any parents, Zions were committed to making sure their baby made it to the next birthday. His mother quit her job to be a full-time caregiver while also raising their 4-year-old daughter. His father worked overtime, struggling to make ends meet to ensure their son's treatment wouldn't end simply because he couldn't afford it. Unfortunately, because of his reality, that meant barriers to care that meant cancer progressed to stage 2 before treatment could begin. Virginia lacked facilities willing to provide affordable care, and relocating for the family was impossible. There was a glimmer of hope. The family would take a metro an hour and a half daily to from Fairfax to a hospital in Washington, D.C., where they agreed to charity care. But unfortunately, Zion passed away. And because of this story, just one of many that probably are just too often in our communities, we are urging lawmakers to take action to make sure that there's more access to research, to cancer treatment, regardless of immigration status. So as I mentioned, that's as well as one-pagers on the 3 policies that we heard about earlier are available on the Commonwealth Institute's website under 2025 agenda. So I saw we have some heavy hitters that just joined us, so I'll make way. But I appreciate your time, and I welcome any questions after this. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And as Freddie already indicated, we do have some heavy hitters in the room. And, today our theme has been on physical health. We've heard great data. And then we're going to get right to our heavy hitters who are here. We're talking about legislators, actually senators. And so first we have the chairperson of the Senate subcommittee, as well as a member of the full Senate Education Subcommittee, Education Committee, but he's also an educator in Henrico County Public Schools. Woo-woo. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce the Senator Schuyler Van Valkenburg from the District 16. Let's give him a league welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize for being late. It is that time of session. And so thank you for being engaged. Thank you for being here today on League Day. And thank you for all you do. I get to see you guys at a minimum, at least every week in P&E, where you're a voice of sanity and reason, and the right things to be for when it comes to elections. And I know I'm supposed to cover some of the education stuff and some of the education stuff that you guys are focusing on, and particularly on the funding side of it. And so I'll keep it brief and keep it running because we got the real heavy hitter here, Senator Aaron, next. So my seatmate and county mate. We've come a long way on education since when I first got elected back in 2017. We've come a long way. And we've done a lot of good things. And in many ways, the things we've done are the things we always should have been doing, right? Now we got to do the hard things. But the hard things that we know will be truly transformative for kids. And so I'm gonna hit on, and these are things that you guys are focusing on, which I think is really great, because at the end of the day, it's about the resources for education, right? And getting the resources to the right places, in particular, because we do need more money in schools, and the JLARC report, right, is a good benchmark for where we're falling short. But we also need that money to go to the right places, and we know that right now that doesn't always happen. And so, there's four things I know you're focusing on that I think are really holistic and really comprehensive and really get to this issue. And as I joke with my colleagues, although it's only half joking, that they're my unicorn. If I get them done, I'm out of here. See ya. Someone else can go, and I'm gonna retire to the beach. But a lot of that is around how we fund with the funding formula, right? And making sure that we update it and modernize it. We know we can. We had a blue state to our north. We've had a red state to our west, who have both done comprehensive funding formula reform that ensures that the money that the state spends gets to the right places. And then tied to that, right, we have things like making sure we're hitting the basic SOQs, standards of quality, which are the standards that we set as a state for what's proper funding, includes within that, which is incredibly important. Making sure that the funding for those facilities are going to the places where it's most needed. And then last, and the thing that you have on here, right, is that 1% sales tax referendum for all school systems. Should I hit don't send? It, um, and and making sure localities have another tool in the toolkit to help themselves, right? Which is, I think, unfortunately, something we've done when Democrats have had control, and then when there's a veto point, Republicans haven't let it happen. And I think that's unfortunate, because it's just giving the locality the chance to make the choice themselves. But I could go on and on. I think the funding formula is the number one thing we could do as a state to move forward, just kind of comprehensively. It would help our kids, it would help our communities, it would help our economy. I think it's that the biggest thing out there that could make our state even better. And then the last thing I'll say is I also think we really need to be root and branch looking at how we teach. I think one of the reasons I ran in 2018 was that we were neglecting education, and we were neglecting it in funding, but we were also neglecting it within the classroom. I think the last 4 years have been a real lost opportunity in that regard. But how we test kids, how we get instructional materials in the classroom, how we prepare our teachers, how we ensure that our teachers stick around because the work environment is productive and healthy, which it's not right now. These are all things that matter too, and things that I care about too, and are hopefully things that we can improve this session, but moving forward in the next handful of years as well. And so thank you for everything you do. We've done a lot of good work on education. I really think Virginia and this, and in so many, and voting. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you guys about voting all day. I've been hanging out with you guys for 8 years in P&E. We've seen some lows, but we've seen a lot of highs. Virginia went from being the second hardest state to vote in. We are now the 9th easiest state to vote in. We are a success story. We are a model for other parts of the country. And we've done that with y'all. And that's, to me, is one of the proudest accomplishments that I've had as a legislator, is being able to play a role in that. And so thank you for everything you do. I'll stop there. Yeah. Oh yeah. I could do a question. Where is it?
I can read it to you, Senator. It says, could you speak about HJ 440 public school libraries and JLARCs to study removal of books?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think we voted for that today. Were we voting on that today, or did we vote on it yesterday? Senator Locke's JLARC bill, was that? We voted on for that yesterday? It's today. That vote's today. Yeah, and I think that really gets to my point about that. How do you create a healthy and productive educational environment? Right. And it's for teachers, but it's for other people too. And it's not just even in the classroom, right? Or the school, within the school. It's also the places that educate children outside of the school walls, like public libraries. And I think, we're going to pass that bill on in the Senate, I think today. And from there, I don't know what's going to happen to it. Yeah, I think we need to get back to a place where we're not attacking the people who are most fundamental in kids learning, and we need to get to a place where we're not attacking the things kids can read, the things that get them interested in school. And so we're going to pass that bill today. That is an easy yes vote, and then we'll go from there. But I'm hopeful that, you know, as we move into an election year, I'm hopeful that we get to a better place as a state where we're not kind of the tip of the spear of some of these battles. I'd rather we're just doing the boring curriculum work that don't get people excited, but that actually move the needle, and that we're not having these fights about, you know, books being pulled from libraries, because we don't want to be in that place. One more, yeah, let's do it.
There's just one more about the funding that some schools receive from federal grants, and given what's happening right now, are you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do work with our federal colleagues, of course. My very unsatisfactory answer is, who knows? Unfortunately, it's just, you know, I saw news. I think I saw, it's so hard to get news when you're in session that's not Virginia related. I think I saw that the courts put a hold on yeah, I'm getting heads nodded. Yes. Okay. So the courts put a hold on what the Trump administration's doing. So at least in the short term, we're okay. I'd be lying if I said I was not really worried about not just school funding, but a lot of funding. I mean, one of the big projects that got caught up in that whole whatever debacle, mess, chaos, whatever you want to call it, is the Long Bridge, which is something no one's ever going to talk about, but is one of the things that could unleash rail across the Southeast, and would be just a game changer for our communities in Virginia. And they put that on hold, and without that Long Bridge, we don't have, you know, all this great rail work that the Northam administration has done and that the General Assembly has done would be put on hold for a long time. And so that's just like another kind of, it's not small, but that's another small example of this kind of chaotic universe we're in. And hopefully the worst doesn't come to be. But that's my unsatisfactory answer, I think. We're just going to have to kind of wait and see.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for all you do. Sorry I was late. I'm glad I could be here. And now the real rock star.
Well, he said it best, because this person is a rock star. And so is Senator Van Valkenburg. All right. So our next person is a champion, another champion for children and parents in public education. And her name is Senator LaSharice Aird of District 13. Let's give her a league welcome.
Thank you so much, my dear soror. I appreciate the invitation. I was literally just checking to see how much trouble I can get into up here, but I'm reminded that you are a nonpartisan organization, and I know how to navigate those waters well. So again, good morning, everyone. I am LaSharice Aird, and for those who don't know, Senate District 13, it has 8 localities. So if you're in any of these places, I bring you greetings. That's Eastern Henrico. You just heard from my seatmate and county mates, Charles City County, Sussex County, Dinwiddie County, Prince George County, Petersburg, Hopewell, Prince George, and I hope I didn't miss Dinwiddie. I think I did mention them. But anyways, we have a really diverse, largely geographic area. And so I have the privilege of oftentimes representing a variety of viewpoints as we approach the topics that you care a lot about and that we're discussing today. I think I just want to start out by saying, I hope everyone is okay. I feel like I can't even get into the topics at hand because as Senator Van Valkenburg just closed with, when we're in session, it's already hard enough to get the news. And it sounds like a really strange thing to say because we're lawmakers, but I'm not exaggerating because we're moving at such a quick pace. You don't have time to consume at the same rate. In this week alone, there has just been headline after headline after headline of literal chaos and confusion. And I start by saying I hope people are okay because not only does it have a psychological effect, it has a mental effect, it has a physical effect, especially if you are a federal employee, and a whole slew of other reasons why, especially as a result of yesterday. And so I just want you to know that your lawmakers are mindful that this is happening, and we are having conversations about how does the state respond in moments like these when so many things that we are literally collaborative partners on with the federal government, how do we work together and make sure that services and resources don't come to an end? So I'm sorry I'm ranting, but I just had to start there. You're talking about families, children, education, physical health, and you just really heard from the Master of Public Education to a certain extent. And so I'm not going to duplicate some of what has been said, but I want to raise up two things. He started to talk about the funding formula. This session, I'm very proud to have been carrying legislation that is a continued recommendation of the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, JLARC, to lift the support cap. We really did a lot of work to try and begin to lift that support cap, but we have not quite gotten there. And I was just in Senate Finance this morning discussing this legislation and reminded of the millions of dollars that it's going to require. But quite frankly, those millions of dollars are delayed and are well overdue. And we're going to hear about scores that are coming out today. We're going to hear about whether or not students have recovered from learning loss from the pandemic. And I would implore us to be reminded that these support cap positions, they're equally important and part of that equation. If you're not familiar with the support cap staff that are included, some examples include, instructional and professional positions, technological professionals, operation and maintenance, support technology, school-based clerical, attendance and health, all types of individuals that help really make, and I'll add learning specialists to that help make the school days function. And so I'm hoping that the response I received this morning in Senate Finance, which is we're trying to work it out in the budget, I hope that means we'll continue to work towards addressing this concern. But anyone can read those tea leaves, we'll see. The other thing that I also want to make mention of specifically is around cell phone use in schools. Senator Van Valkenburg didn't talk about this a lot, but he is working on that legislation with Senator Pekarsky. And I think I just want to mention this because as a parent myself, of school age children, this is often a topic of conversation. And I would hope that you all continue to monitor this too, because I think it not only has relevance from the public school setting, but also physical health setting, because there is no shortage of data now that makes it very clear that there is a very direct link between how much social media or just technology use generally has an effect on our young people. And so I think that this is very good legislation. It's trying to offer some consistency around the state. The governor had a executive order to try and direct schools in such a way already, but we're hoping that this clears up, I think the variety of approaches that are being taken right now. The other thing that I have here that I just want to make mention of is I am working on legislation that I think speaks more to physical health and this is nursing homes. Right now, Virginia is ranked, I think, at 2.6 stars out of a 5-star scale of its nursing homes. We're ranked 38th in the country, and we have received such a significant uptick in the number of complaints from families about our nursing homes here in Virginia. So needless to say, we deserve to have facilities that are uplifting a standard and quality of care, and we are falling short of that right now. I have legislation along with Delegate Otto Waxman in the House to empower our health commissioner to be able to issue lower level sanctions, which we believe will allow the commissioner to take action before problems get to their worst state. Believe it or not, the health commissioner cannot do that right now. So for things that are similar to the state of the facility, when you walk in, how it feels, how it looks, whether it's clean or not, all the way to quality of care, the state health commissioner is not able to issue sanctions for those intermediate challenges that a facility may experience. And so it's actually, it was a little shocking to me when I learned that, because the only thing that she really can do is take the most extreme, which is to close a facility down, take them to court, or to prevent new admissions, which if it is a terrible situation, she should be able to do that. But for the lower level sanctions that are preventable, she should be able to issue sanctions too. So we're really excited about being able to hopefully move this legislation forward. And the only thing I will close with saying is that generally we are, as a, I think, collective in the Senate, passing a lot of education bills and a lot of bills that I think also have an effect on the whole individual. And I'll just close with talking about my child tax credit, which was another bill that I was told, well, we'll see if we can work it out in the budget. Most of you have heard that the governor wanted to move forward a rebate, if you will, for the car tax, establishing a new fund. And I would challenge saying that maybe for some that might be beneficial, but I personally believe it leaves individuals out. If you don't own a car, if you lease a car, or if you don't file taxes, you would not be the beneficiary of any monies received from this rebate, if you will. And I know the House and the Senate have varying ways in which they want to approach this. I would like to see them take into account the child tax credit. During the pandemic, the child tax credit was in existence, and we know from all of the data that has been collected from that period of time that ultimately it had a significant role in decreasing childhood poverty. Families were able to use that money that they were receiving during the pandemic to pay for daily expenses and or food and or things to support their children. The approach that myself and Delegate Kathy Tran took to the child tax credit would be to allow for a $300 credit for individuals that had children 12 years or younger making under 100,000. We believe this, again, is not limited to individuals with cars, but certainly would allow for our most vulnerable families to have just a little bit more cash to maybe go towards a utility bill, to go towards childcare, to go towards, food on their table. And so if you talk to a member of the Finance and Appropriations, put in a good word for me, let them know that we think that this would be helpful for our families in the Commonwealth. And again, one of those things that treats the whole unit as a whole. And so I'll get off my soapbox there. Happy to answer any questions. Okay, great.
There are more comments than questions, really. Appreciate all you said, Senator. There was one thing that our governor has not stood up for our federal employees. What's the solution?
So thank you so much for that comment. I think that's why I started out by saying we as a legislature, or at least I can say in the Senate specifically, we are having this conversation actively. As much as anyone wants to say that this is smoke and mirrors and there's being misinformation and disinformation passed around, that's just simply not true. The executive orders that have been signed to date, they will have real implications. The emails that have gone to federal employees inviting them to resign do have real implications. And we are trying to figure out, since we don't have an attorney general that will respond, what power we have. We are taking that assessment right now. And we're also thinking about what communication we need to have, even if it is lawmaker driven and not executive branch driven, to try and limit as much harm as possible. So those are conversations that are actively occurring.
And one last question. Since federal funding has been provided over the last 3 decades, a lot of funding generated by the state lottery, which was earmarked for education, has been removed. Can that be appropriated back to education?
So I think I was told that, and I want to make sure, are you talking about federal or state education funding?
State.
So that is part of what we're fighting for. So when I made reference to the JLARC 2023 Standards of Quality Study, a lot of that talks about funding that had been removed and how do we get back to a place where we fully fund those items. We've made some progress, but basically we have a lot more work to do. So we are actively introducing budget amendments to try and get those funding investments back into the education section as they once were.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is just wonderful. And for all of you, just a reminder, we do support the child tax credit. I know Maria Posey is on. So getting right to it, here comes someone else who also needs no introduction. This person has done a lot with us. They partner with us. And they are, this person is from the Commonwealth Institute. And I just want to say they have been an excellent advocate. I've learned a lot from them. And so I would just like to introduce the research director of the Commonwealth Institute, Levi Gorin.
Thanks so much, Denise. And thank you to all of you for being here this morning. I've heard that we're going to get kicked out of the room promptly at 9:30, so I'm going to be short to make sure that Shane, who follows me, also has some time. I think you heard from Senator von Valkenburg and Senator Aird about all the work that's being done to try to provide additional funds for our schools this year. And you may have heard from Freddie, we're at this sort of critical time of this legislative session where on Sunday we're going to see the House and Senate budget proposals, at which point we will then have the opportunity to encourage our delegates and senators to take the best aspect of both of those to form their final budget. I was asked to provide an update on some specific items. One of them was the 1% sales tax authority to allow local governments the option to have more school construction funding. That bill has passed the Senate by the same vote count as last year, which unfortunately probably means it's on its way to veto and the same outcome as last year. But you know, we do have hope that with a future governor that could become law. There was a question about the local composite index and the JLARC study. They did recommend in the JLARC study that Virginia move to 3 years of data for for determining the share of school funding each local government pays versus the state instead of the current 1 year of funding. So there are 2 budget amendments this year to implement that JLARC recommendation related to that aspect of our school funding formula. So we'll see what happens in the budget related to that. And then there was a question about amending the Constitution from seek to ensure that Virginia provide a high quality education to we actually ensure, which I think would be a great change. There's not a constitutional amendment this year to do that, but I think that is definitely something that we should think about working to make happen, because I think it really could make a big difference in terms of holding the state responsible for what they need to be doing to provide high quality schools in every community. And then finally, there was a question about school construction funding. There is some money in the governor's budget for that. Had some conversations recently with money committee staff about that, and we're not sure we're going to get much more this year for school construction, but it's definitely making sure that we at least keep what's in the governor's budget. So that was like very dry and technical, and you know, having to follow Senator Aird is very hard. So my apologies for that. I think that, you know, as we think about, you know, some of the things she said, making sure that we continue to make sure our students know that they are welcome and loved in our schools, no matter what's going on, you know, at the federal government, and making sure that the state is doing what it can to protect its local governments, its colleges and universities and nonprofits and everyone else from what's going on with federal funding. The state is actually in a pretty good fiscal position. The state has ample reserves right now. And the governor, I mean, the president is not it's not furloughing federal employees like during a shutdown. So this is different than a regular shutdown in terms of the economic impact. I don't expect it to have a particularly detrimental impact on Virginia's economy. It will have a detrimental impact on people in Virginia through the cutoff of services, but Virginia is in a position as a state where it can try to protect communities and families from harm because we do have a strong economy and adequate fiscal reserves. So that is my 2 cents about thinking about the federal funding nonsense. And there's a question about money allocated for education, going to public schools and preserving it for public schools. The governor did have a voucher proposal in his budget, and there's been some legislation connected to that. I do not expect that to make it into the House or Senate budgets. We are lucky to have some great champions for public schools in our legislature, although it never hurts to remind them of the importance of keeping public funds in public schools. So that is my time. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Levi. We are so grateful. And so our next person who's going to come up and quickly close us out. The organization needs no introduction. The organization is the largest teachers association in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. And I was a former member as a teacher of 36 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce the Government Relations Director, Shane, what's your last name? Riddle, that's right, Shane Riddle from the Virginia Education Association.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us to speak with you this morning. Denise, you're such a great friend. And the League of Women Voters, what a great organization. And we appreciate all the work that the Commonwealth Institute does for the Commonwealth also. We work closely with our partner organizations, and I really just want to take just a few minutes to touch on a couple of really important pieces of legislation. Some of them have already been mentioned to you. The support cap. Of course, Senator Aird is a great advocate for public schools, and we appreciate her in the Petersburg and Eastern Ryco areas. We work very closely with Senator Aird, and it was nice to see her this morning with you. I have emailed a one-pager to Denise. I have her email handily in my listserv, and so that's the first person that came up. So Denise, I emailed that to you. Feel free to share that with others. Thank you very much. I'm just going to highlight just one large piece of legislation that we are working on, and it has to do with raising teacher and staff pay. This is a very important issue in the Commonwealth, has been for many years. Teachers are still off of the national average by quite a bit. We continually work to get there. And we had a bill, HB 1594, sponsored by Darius Clark, to help to get us to the national average over a period of years. And last year, this bill was vetoed by the governor. He had 2 veto messages associated with it. We fixed those 2 issues, brought the bill back this year. And the first place it was referred to was a House Appropriations, where it's now, that's where it is right now. And we're having issues with the bill being docketed. So what we're asking advocates to do, to help us do, is to go on to the House Appropriations site, go to the bills that are in the committee, and leave comment on the bill and asking the Appropriations Committee to support the bill and have it docketed for a hearing. so that we can hear this bill and get it to the governor's desk. There's really no reason for the governor not to sign it this year. We handled the veto messages. And this is a very important piece of legislation. What it actually does is it establishes a methodology to address the teacher pay and support staff pay issue, and puts us on a course to get to the national average over a period of years. And there's no cost to it this year. As you know, teachers in this biennium will receive 3%. They receive 3% at the beginning of this biennium and will receive 3% pay raises July of this year. Now, we are also asking that this 3% be bumped to 6% to get us to the national average quicker. We are hearing rumors that our friends want to introduce bonuses instead of pay bumps. And listen, we appreciate, we appreciate anything that will help teachers in regards to their wages, benefits, and working conditions. But the problem with bonuses is that you cannot use bonuses for purposes of pension. And also bonuses are one time, which do not add to the lifetime earnings of our teachers and support staff. So as we appreciate the effort, we need to do things that are sustainable, that get us to the point of reaching the national average and above. So if we're asking our friends to help us with HB 1594, and if you could please go to the website. We're also holding our lobby day this Friday, and we have around 200 to 225 teachers and support staff coming to the Capitol on Friday morning to help us lobby on issues that were just mentioned, on the support cap, on school improvement grants that are moving through the Senate and the House, and also special education add-on. These are short-term recommendations from the JLARC Commission, and so these will be the issues that we really push on Friday when we meet with our legislators, including the teacher salary issue. And I would be happy to answer any questions. Just to let the LWV, all the members of LWV know, we have positions on around 300 bills. Then we have initiated around 26 measures. So we're working very hard for public education, as you know, and we have many partners that we work with the Fund Our Schools Coalition, and also with the Progressives table. And also LWV, you're always great, and thank you for working with us and partnering with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have about 2 minutes left before we're thrown out of the room, but I just want to say thank all of you for attending and understanding. Remember my favorite quote from Thomas Jefferson, a public school is necessary to this experiment. No, excuse me, an educated citizenry is necessary for this experiment known as our great republic. Thank you for being a pro-democracy organization and understanding the need to continue to support children and parents in public education. Thank you all for coming. In your drive, you're going to see some wonderful, juicy budget amendments that we would like you to also contact your House members. Bye-bye. But she just put it in. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks to our speakers. And next week, hopefully everything will be working. And our topic will be childcare. Thank you very much. See you all around. Take care. Bye-bye.